Okay friends, it's time to get started on our job. The area that we're going to be accessing is down inside here. To be able to gain easier access, we're going to start taking all of this apart. Let's start by removing this plastic plate. To remove this, you're going to find 3 7mm headed bolts. Remove all 3 and the plastic. Go ahead and set that aside. Now we can move along to removing our air inlet tube. Looking at the air inlet tube, you're going to find 2 clamps that you're going to have to loosen. One closest to the throttle body and one further towards the air filter box. To loosen these, you can either use a flathead screwdriver or an 8mm socket. You only need to loosen them far enough that you can move the hoses around from their attachment point. Now let's move along to using a trim tool. We're going to come right here to the mass airflow sensor wiring. Just carefully get underneath this area and gently pry it up. Inspect it to make sure it's not broken. You do need to make sure this wire is secured in the end. We'll go ahead and set this aside for now. Now we're going to move along to this area right here. This plastic line only goes into this by pressing it in. It's not held in by anything else. We'll carefully grab onto this and we're going to separate the two. Now the next thing we're going to do is start removing the air inlet tube from the air filter housing. I'll grab onto this, I'm going to give it a little wiggle and carefully separate it. Move along to where it connects onto the throttle body. Give it a little wiggle and remove it from the vehicle. We'll just give this a quick inspection. Assuming it looks good, set it aside. Now we're going to move along to dealing with the serpentine belt tensioner. To remove this, I'll use a 3/8 drive ratchet. We'll go ahead and bring this right down to its point down inside the bottom of the tensioner. Now I'm going to turn this counterclockwise to relieve tension and I'll pull it off of the idler pulley right up here. Go ahead and release that tension here. We'll get our tool out of the way. At this point, we can clearly access our idler pulley right here. To remove this, we'll continue using a 15mm on the mounting bolt. Continue on removing that all the way until we remove it from the vehicle. Looking at the back of the idler pulley, you're going to find that you have a washer that has some locking tabs on it. To remove that washer, simply turn it counterclockwise until it fully unscrews from the bolt threads. Set that aside because you will be reusing it. Go ahead and remove the idler pulley from the mounting bolt. Okay, let's get our brand new idler pulley installed in the vehicle. To do that, I'm going to take my mounting bolt. Looking at the mounting bolt, you can see that I have a rubber mounting bushing here. That's going to fit directly inside of the bearing hole. Slide it right in there. From the back side, we're going to go ahead and put on our locking washer by turning it clockwise until it bottoms out against the bearing. Before we put it on, inspect the area that it's going to be mounted to. You want to make sure it's a nice, smooth, clean surface. Let's go ahead and take this and put it in position. Start it in by hand. Once it bottoms out, we'll go ahead and torque it to manufacturer's specification. All right, let's get this torqued to 35 foot-pounds. Let's continue removing the belt from the serpentine belt tensioner. We'll just go ahead and set that aside a little bit. Looking at the serpentine belt tensioner, you're going to find one 13mm headed bolt. Go Go ahead and carefully remove that and the tensioner from the engine bracket. Once you have that out of there, go ahead and remove the mounting bolt. We'll give that a close inspection, set the bolt aside. Let's get ready to install our serpentine belt tensioner. Go ahead and take that mounting bolt, slide it right on through the hole here. Have a look at the back side. You have the mounting bolt, and then you also have the alignment tab. Now we're going to have a look at the bracket on the engine. Looking down in there, you're going to find the hole for the bolt, and right along the side of it, you'll also find the hole for the alignment tab. Once you locate both of those, go ahead and inspect the plated area there. Make sure it's still a smooth, clean surface. Assuming that looks good, continue on with your installation. Let's torque this to 35 foot-pounds. Let's get this belt off of here. Pull it off of the crank down on the bottom there. Whenever I remove a serpentine belt, I just like to take a look at it just to kind of gauge it. As you can tell, this one's in very poor condition, which is fine. We're replacing it anyway. When you're installing your serpentine belt, it's a good idea to have a look at the diagram. Now let's do this starting with the bottom pulley. I'll do this by going all the way down along the passenger side of the water pump. That's the pulley that has the fan attached to it. I'm going to go ahead and take this and I'll put it over the crank, which is the lowest pulley. Put my hand down in there. Now that I have it over that pulley, I'm going to go ahead and set this side aside, and then I'll move along to the driver's side of this. I'm going to put it up and over the water pump pulley, the smooth surface there. Now I'm going to bring it down, and we're going to come around the AC compressor. Now for the AC compressor, you're going to see that it has a ribbed pulley. It has all these grooves on it. You want to make sure that the belt is sitting perfectly inside the grooves. If it's off by even one tooth, you're going to ruin your belt. We'll take this and we'll bring it up and over the power steering pump. Now we're going to move along to the passenger side of the belt. For this, we're going to go ahead and put it around the tensioner. Go ahead and grab that belt, pull it up and over the alternator. Once again, any of the pulleys that have the grooves on them, you want to make sure the belt's sitting perfectly in the grooves. Now let's take our 3/8 drive ratchet or serpentine belt tool, put it into the tensioner. Go ahead and turn that counterclockwise to relieve tension, and then we're going to slide the belt underneath the smooth idler pulley. There we are. Go ahead and remove your tool. Now it's time for our preliminary belt check. What I mean by that is double check the belt to make sure it's sitting into each of the grooves on all of the grooved pulleys. Super important. The alternator is easy to see. You've got the tensioner, the crank pulley. Down here you've got the power steering pump, and then of course the AC compressor. All those have grooves and the belt needs to be sitting perfectly. Assuming all that looks good, you should be good to go ahead and put on your air inlet, and then we can go ahead and start up the vehicle and do our final check. Let's install the air inlet tube. Make sure you tighten both of your clamps. Get this cover on here. We're going to line up all 3 of our mounting bolt holes. We'll start in all 3 of the bolts and then snug them up. Okay, to finish this job, you want to carefully go ahead and start up the vehicle, run it for 5 seconds and turn it off. Make your way back out here. Triple check the belt. You want to make sure it's inside all of the grooves. It's super important, so I keep re-mentioning it. Aside from that, take it for a road test. Thanks for watching.